We're really excited to share with you all this information about how you can overcome negative thinking. This is a very popular topic. So I'm going to start the PowerPoint and we'll go through that. And then partway through, we're going to stop and you can ask any questions you have, and we'd be happy to answer as many as you have. Okay. So,
Okay, so the first thing is, let's see, and I just want to, Patricia, we're not seeing the PowerPoint yet. I just wanted to let you know that. But while we're waiting for the PowerPoint to come up, let me
okay,
just say
Christy,
that,
I don't know what's happening with technology today, but it is definitely weird. I know you have the PowerPoint as well. I'm seeing it on my screen.
huh,
So I don't know why it's not there, but I know you have it. So why don't you start it?
okay, let me just,
Huh. Okay, we like to affirm here that technology is our friend. So
yes, we do.
technology is our friend.
Let me just pull that up.
That, and
I
meanwhile, if
had it
anyone else is
open, so now I've got to close it and
okay,
reopen it.
and Arbor. Oh, and Mubina says she can see the PowerPoint.
Oh, okay, so maybe it's just me?
I see fault. Huh. Maybe because you're one of the panelists. I don't know.
Okay, well, as long as
I do
our
apologize for all this.
group
We
can
we usually
see.
our PowerPoints go just fine.
Yep.
Okay, let me start again. There we go. Okay. So again, welcome to our Overcoming Negative Thinking webinar. We're delighted to have you all here. And, and we want to tell you, first of all, to really get rid of any distractions, because it'd be great for you to focus completely on what we're doing. We know it's a very important topic for everyone. We do tend to multitask these days, so it's very important to be able to just let go of all the other distractions and focus on what we're going to share with you today. Okay. So first of all, do you have any thoughts like this? Do you criticize yourself endlessly? Do you constantly think about all the things that could go wrong? Maybe they won't, but you think about them. Do you worry about what other people think of you? Do you try to be perfect? Are you concerned about them? One of my early mentors was named Terry Cole Whitaker, and she wrote a book called What You Think of Me Is None of My Business. Great title for a book, right? Do you assume the worst? Do you feel victimized by people and surroundings? So, do you underplay your own power? And do you excessively avoid or accommodate to other people? So, just think about whether any of these things describe yourself and the kinds of thoughts that you might have. And you may have lots of positive ones too. We know many of you on this webinar are really Louise Hay fans, and you've made changes in your life, but there's probably some things that you still need to change.
So, unless we quiet those negative voices, the negative experiences will continue. So, we're going to talk about that today.
Absolutely. Here's our intentions. First of all, to help you understand the psychology of negative thinking. Believe me, it's like a built-in cycle that we have that we'll talk about more later and how that protected us in the past and doesn't need to now. But really understand that you're not alone, right? That everyone has this psychology of negative thinking, but we're fortunate to find Louise Hay's philosophy and know that we can change it. Then we'd like to give you a quick assessment of your negative thinking patterns. There's a little exercise that we love to do and share with people. And then we're going to share Louise Hay's techniques for stopping the negative patterns and establishing new positive ones. So you can go forward with really holding on to those and letting go of the negative thinking.
And we're so grateful for you guys being here today. It's been said that 90% of life is showing up. So, to thank you for showing up, we have a bonus offer for you at the end of the webinar. So, please be sure to stay until the end so that we can give you that bonus offer.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that saying, it's 90% of life is showing up. We know that you all had a choice of where you wanted to be today, but it was important enough for you to learn more about the negative thinking cycle and to be here to be able to learn how to change that. Now, who are we? First of all, Rick and my husband and I, Rick Nichols, we established Heart Inspired Presentations LLC back in 2020. We actually sent out a poll to our friends and asked them there were like three different names we could have chosen, and they liked this one. Some of you already know we have a unique licensing agreement with Hay House, and this was approved by Louise Hay for us to offer the trainings in her work. And this is an early picture of me and Louise with her little dog at the house that she used to have in Lomas near San Diego. And that was a beautiful property that she had. And early on, we used to have our trainees go there and meet her in person. So I trained personally with Louise for many years. I actually met her in 19, I'm not sure I want to even say that. It was a long time ago. I actually met her in 1986, 2 years after her massively bestseller book, You Can Heal Your Life, was published. And I was so thrilled to know that she was offering week-long programs that I could go to with a hundred of other people usually. And I started studying with her, and then she asked me to be on staff for the intensive that she was doing, which was so thrilling. After she was on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and that was at the end of like around 1989, 1990, Hay House got so busy and she got so busy, there was no way she could continue those. So she asked myself and a few others that had been studying a lot with her to lead her 2-day workshop, the signature Love Yourself, Heal Your Life 2-day workshop that has transformed lives even over and above the book because it goes so much deeper into all the patterns that we want to release. And that led to people asking for a training program specifically for that 2-day workshop because they did feel like it changed their life so much. So there's a lot more to my background. You can certainly find it on our YouTube channel, Hear Your Life. But I'd like to turn it over to Christy Dixon now.
Hi, everyone. I am Christy Dixon, and I started working with Patricia about 15 years ago. And I've taken the workshop, I've taken all of our trainings, workshop leader, coach training, and all the others that we offer. And in that time, I have changed my life. I've grown into the COO of Heart Inspired, and I'm just excited to be here and share this work with you all.
And I like to tell people that Christy keeps us sane.
Thank
She
you.
is just absolutely incredible as a person and just as someone who works with us and takes care of so much of the admin work and now teaching as well. So thank you, Christy, for all you do.
Thank you. All right, so now let's start talking about all of you and how this is going to pertain to you guys. We're going to get into what is the cycle of negative thinking.
And that is so important.
Hmm.
So here's actually what it looks like as we just look at it visually. You have experiences of either emotional ones, people say things to you, it creates thoughts, and the thoughts create the emotions. And after a while, if you have a certain, negative experience that's happened a number of times, that becomes a belief about yourself. I'm not good enough. I can't do it. I'll never succeed. And then those beliefs, of course, affect your behavior and create more negative experiences because we talk about how our thoughts create our reality in this philosophy. So, just a couple of examples. I mean, we certainly have this in our adult life, but if you go back to your childhood and you think about some of the negative things that you might have been taught then or said then those become, your thoughts as a child. Gee, I really am not good enough. Or, for example, if your parents argued a lot, nobody has to tell you that relationships are difficult. That becomes a thought in your own mind. Oh, people argue a lot. That goes into an emotion of helplessness, perhaps, or anger, perhaps, whatever the emotions are. And you begin to develop a belief when that hope happens over and over again that that's the way relationships are. So it changes your behavior. You become an adult, and suddenly you have experiences with negative stuff in relationships, right? So that's an example of how this cycle works. And you can probably think of a few examples right now from your own childhood. I was fortunate in that my parents were very supportive, but I had a grandmother on my dad's side who was very clear that girls weren't good enough. My brothers were treated very nicely, and I was not, because she really, from her own experience, didn't feel like she was valuable. And so she projected that on to me. But things like that happen in school. We talk about our parents a lot in this philosophy, but we don't blame them because they were doing the best they could at the time with their awareness and their background. But it's not just parents, right? Other relatives, some of our institutions, people at school, your school teachers. Christy and I had had several people in the Heal Your Life training where they were actually told when they were in school as a young person that they would never succeed.
Mhm.
And both of them now have master's degrees with what they're doing. So, these things, though, it was a lot for them to overcome in terms of their own thoughts and beliefs about themselves because of that. So, while we may have a lot of positive experiences, we have quite a few negative ones as well. And that's the cycle I want you to remember the experiences. Go to thoughts and emotions, develop beliefs, especially over time when you've heard the same kinds of things or experienced them over and over again. That affects your behavior because you're thinking, I'm not good enough. So that's going to express out into your experience. Now, it's been said that we have 90,000 thoughts a day. I don't know who counted them. Do you, Kirsty? I don't know who
No idea
counted
who
them.
counted them.
But something like 75,000 thoughts of those every day are negative, or they're the same thoughts we've had over and over again. And so then we wonder why our lives don't change. And so it's really becoming so important to identify the patterns that your thoughts have. And I almost like to think of them as train tracks. You're used to your thoughts going down a certain train track about a certain topic, whether it's personal to you or other things all the time. And so, what happens? We're going to talk about more of this later, but you actually develop more synapses in your brain when you have over and over the same thoughts every day. So, wouldn't it be great to develop more positive thoughts?
So, the one thing to note before we get into those positive thoughts and how to develop them is the more negative the experience, the stronger the emotions created. So, if you think back to something that was really negative for you, that and you can really usually think back and remember exactly how you felt in that moment. Exactly, a lot of times you can actually see what was going on around you, and yet we tend to not be able to do that as well with our positive experiences. And I know that for me growing up, school was a pretty negative experience for me. I moved a lot and I was always new and I always felt awkward and uncomfortable and out of place. And I can see my classrooms, even though I went to 12 different schools by the time I hit sixth grade. I can see every single classroom I was ever in. I can picture the teachers. I can picture myself and how small and scared I felt. And my home was a place where I typically felt safe, much safer than I did at school. And I cannot see my home quite as well, all the homes that I was in, quite as well, or even remember how great my parents were, quite as well as I can remember how scary school was for me. And so, one thing to note as we start to go forward and talk about how to change our thoughts and change how we're noticing things in our life is that it is true our brain is wired to take that negative experience and learn for it. So it does create strong emotions, and that's okay.
So, what happens? We tend to recall trauma experiences more clearly than positive ones, just like Christy was just talking about. We tend to recall insults better than praise. So, have you ever done a project or maybe been a speaker somewhere and 99% of the people said, "Hey, great, good project," and one person said, "Terrible"? Which one do you remember? And which one do you think about over and over and over again afterwards, right? You think about the negative ones. And that's part of our need to be perfectionist as well, right? We want to do things well, we want to be perfect. And maybe some of that was instilled in you when you were a child. And so we also respond stronger to negative events than positive events. And this is something that's really important to understand. Why does this happen?
It's because in early times, we had to pay attention to dangerous threats to keep us safe.
Mhm.
So again, if you think back to, a time when you were scared, when you felt unsafe, when, you felt anger, and you can picture that just like I can picture my schoolrooms. I had to really, really pay attention to that because I had to figure out how to keep myself safe there. I didn't have my parents to keep me safe. It was just me on my own. And if you think about it in early times, it would be just like that, only maybe you've got a saber-toothed tiger out there. Maybe you're just in a cave, and you have to pay attention to those dangerous threats, or you and your family aren't going to make it. So our brains are hardwired to notice those negative things in order to keep us safe. So,
Right,
you don't want to spend a lot of time being hard on yourself because you notice the negative. This is a psychological thing that our brains do to help us. And psychologists call this the negative bias.
right.
And we're just going to talk about how we can change that around.
So I'm going to stop the share in just a moment, but first of all, I want you to know that we're going to go into the good news. So, who has a question? Does anybody have a question for us before we go on? We'd be happy to answer. Okay, looks like it's all clear so far.
All
All
right,
right.
great.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to share. And the good news. And I'm glad we have it, aren't you?
I'm so glad we have good news. The techniques from Louise Hay give you the tools to change the negative cycle. And I'm telling you guys, when I started 15 years ago, I had not heard of Louise Hay. And I came in to help Patricia, with emails and things like that. And as soon as I started reading the book, You Can Heal Your Life, and as soon as I started putting into practice the things we're going to talk about today, I started noticing big changes to that negative cycle that Patricia was showing us. And so that's what we're going to go on and talk about.
Right. And actually, it surprised Rick and I that we hired Christy since she didn't know about Heal Your Life. But we interviewed her and we just had this intuitive feeling that she was absolutely the right person for us. And if some of you have already met her in other ways, then you know that. And our Heal Your Life teachers sure know it as well, for sure.
And I'm so grateful you guys had that intuitive feeling.
Me too. Well, Louise always says it's only a thought and a thought can be changed. And we do believe your reality is created by your thoughts, but it's also your feelings because those emotional feelings are so strong and they really do attract things to you, with your thoughts as well. If you've heard of Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks channels Abraham. Hay House has published some of her work. Then you've also heard that as well. So it is a thought and a thought can be changed. We have to get, actually be aware of those thoughts first, but it's also your feelings. And the stronger the feelings, the more rapidly you can create things and change things. And I'll give you a quick story about someone from Australia several years ago who had written to us, and she really wanted to win a free training as a fitness instructor. And she entered a contest where they were going to choose a person at one of the gyms to have that free one. But then she found out that they also had like an essay contest. And so she entered the essay contest. She actually put in to get into the drawing at the gym. And every day she wrote to us and said every day she was doing her affirmations and actually feeling that she had already gotten the scholarship and was participating in this fitness training she wanted. She won both of them. She won the essay contest and she got the drawing. Now, she didn't need both of them, so she gave one of them back. But she wanted us to know how powerful it was to do her affirmations and to do the visualization and really, really feel it. So we go into now some awareness of thoughts and feelings. And what I'm going to ask you to do is be with us in a short exercise. So if you can do so safely wherever you are, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and then just imagine yourself going through your day. When you wake up, are you excited about the day? Are you apprehensive? Is there some anxiety about what's going to happen? Concern? And then as you get up and get ready to go throughout your day, looking at yourself in the mirror, perhaps, just notice what you're thinking. And there's no judgment on this. This is just like you are an observer of your own mind, just kind of like you're watching your own mind saying, that's interesting. Maybe you're going to a place of work. Maybe you work at home. Maybe you're retired. Whatever you're in at this point, just think about what are your thoughts as you're going through the day, as you perhaps go out to lunch or have your lunch. Are you concerned about what you're eating, worried about your weight? As you continue through the day, just notice if there's any, patterns that are showing up that are negative thoughts, and it's okay. This is the awareness exercise, or one of them, that is so important for you. Coming home at night, if you've been out working or out doing other activities during the day, again, just noticing your thoughts and continuing as you go through the evening, having dinner and getting ready for bed. And what are you thinking just before you go to bed? So now take a deep breath, and whatever you've noticed, and you can open your eyes, whatever you've noticed is fine. You might want to make a few notes to yourself about some negative thoughts that you had. And there are really 5 different areas that are important, overall areas that are important. First of all, loving yourself, which is a foundation of Louise's work we're going to talk about. And then there's career, prosperity, health, and relationships. Those are the big 5, really. And so maybe there's one of those in your life that is the most significant that you're concerned about. There's really 2 levels of this awareness that we want to talk about. One is the awareness that you are having right now that's current, all right, current in your current life. But then there are some unconscious issues that come up that can really give you information about what some of the unresolved stuff is from childhood. And I want to give you an example of that. When I had my private practice and was working with clients, I had a woman come in one day, and we had been working together for a while on different issues, one of them, of course, loving herself. But she was really angry that day. And when I asked her, "What are you so angry about?" She said, "Well, I was at the park the other day, just went there to be quiet, read a book, enjoy nature. And there was this mom who I got really upset with because she was not paying attention to her child. And I thought her child could have possibly gotten hurt on some of the equipment." And so as we unpacked that a little bit and went deeper, what came out was what she was really angry about was that her mom didn't pay attention to her. So this is how unconscious stuff comes out in your everyday experience. And that's another thing to be aware of. Am I reacting too strongly to this issue that's going on right now? Whenever you have some strong emotions about something, it's very possible that there's some old issue that's in your unconscious from childhood that you can now be aware of. And I experienced that when I was a group leader with Louise's intensives with someone who had experienced a lot of abandonment issues as a child. And when Louise passed her in the hallway, which was a large hallway, by the way, and didn't say hi, this woman felt abandoned and it was very upsetting to her. But when we worked together, it got back to what her mother had done, which was abandoning her. So these levels of awareness are really, really important. And we're going to invite you to do more work on yourself with this, either the current ones just from that little exercise of your thoughts, or even some deeper things where you're having some pretty strong emotions.
So, loving yourself is really the foundation of Louise Hay's work.
Mhm.
And it's a great place to start because when you find that you love yourself, it makes it much easier to be aware and to notice other people and to love them back. And it can feel difficult sometimes. You're waiting to love yourself until you have accomplished, something at work, or you've lost the weight, or until you have the family you've always desired, or, whatever it is you've put on yourself. You're like, I'll love myself then. But the thing is that loving yourself is about loving yourself exactly where you're at now. Perfection is not really a thing. And if we wait for that, we'll never actually get to the point of loving ourselves. We can start with that awareness and notice every time we say something negative to ourselves. And what I always tell people is if you can say something negative and feel comfortable with that, just try turning it around. If you looked at yourself in the mirror and was like, you know what, I'm not loving my hair today. Turn that around and go, I actually am so grateful that I have this beautiful hair that I can work with. It doesn't have to be today, tomorrow, whatever, just grateful for the hair, loving your hair for being there. Whatever it is that you are giving yourself a hard time about, just be aware of it. And then your thought, which creates your reality, you can change it and you can turn it around and you can say, thank you. Thank you to my negatives for showing up. You don't have to be angry with them. They're showing up to try and keep you safe. And you can say, thank you. I've got this, though. And instead, I'm going to say something nice to myself. And then loving yourself, as Louise said, it will create miracles in your life. And I am telling you guys, after 15 years of doing this work, this is the place to start. Loving yourself. It
Absolutely.
is the foundation.
Absolutely. And many of you may already know that Louise created 12 Ways to Love Yourself. She talked about loving yourself so much. And finally, at one of her workshops, someone said, but Louise, how do you love yourself? Can you give me some specifics so I really understand behaviorally what that means? And so initially, Louise created 10, and those were around for quite a few years. And then she added two more. But the very first one, Christy already really mentioned, and the very first one is to stop all criticism, right? And so, right at the beginning of this, I asked you if you criticize yourself a lot about things or you feel like you're not good enough. But number one is stop all criticism. And we're going to talk about a few more of them today, but we're also going to be overcoming negative messages webinar part two, because there's so much to cover in terms of Louise's techniques that can really help you. But the first one is to stop criticizing, just to notice when you're doing it and saying, I can stop this. And I heard a great example the other day. This woman said that she sings that to that song, Stop in the Name of Love. When she hears a negative in her mind, she says, Stop in the name of love. And
I love that.
one of the singers, the spiritual singers that we really love is Karen Drucker. And she also has a song about just stop it. Just stop it. So that's something you can say to yourself, or maybe you have a favorite song that you can sing to yourself when you want to stop criticizing yourself. But there are quite a few other, parts of that 12 ways to love yourself. We have actually done a special webinar when we were doing Celebrating Self-Love Day for February 13th. So we have that webinar is up on our YouTube channel, which you can also check out as well.
So, to start to stop that negative thinking, you're going to want to create positive affirmations. And the affirmation, again, this comes back to that awareness. When you're aware of the negative thinking, put an affirmation in there. And this is what I call the practical application of affirmations. And that just means that you are being aware and noticing that negative thought, and then you're changing that negative thought into an affirmation. And the thing is, an affirmation needs to be positive, which, makes sense. We're trying to change our negative thoughts. It needs to be personal. Because as Louise always said, the only person you can actually change or have any effect on, that you are creating is yourself. And it needs to be in the present tense because your brain will hear if you put it in the future, it'll keep thinking that's only in the future.
Right.
You want to put it right now so your brain thinks this is true right now. So again, that affirmation should be positive, personal, and present tense.
Thank you. And two really powerful affirmations. Of course, the first one is I love and approve of myself, the foundation of Louise's work. But the one I really like because it's like the foundation of all the thoughts. I easily choose the thoughts that nourish me. And I personally just love the word easily because in working with clients, I often heard them say, oh, it's so hard to do this or that or whatever. Well, yeah, if you say it's too hard, it's going to be. And so when you put the word easily in there, you give that emotional self and your brain the idea that it's going to be easy. So when you're thinking about the negative stuff that we've already talked about and what you might have found out in that little exercise, try doing an affirmation that says easily. It's easily for me to choose the thoughts that nourish me. It's easy for me to make a change.
In case anybody is giving you, like, oh, this is just woo woo, and does this really work? And we've been hearing affirmations for years. And you'll hear this from people. You might even hear this in your own brain, like, why am I doing this? But I want to tell you that this is actually rooted in science. Affirmations create new synapses in the brain. And they work because of neuroplasticity, or this is the brain's ability to adapt to new situations. And your brain wants to help you. It really does. And it loves the affirmations. It will respond positively. And research into neuroplasticity shows that for our brains to start to make that change, we need to really be consistent for about 3 to 6 months. And then it really will rewire your brain. And I don't want to get too sciencey, so feel free to go out and do some more research on your own. And that will help you create your affirmations because you'll know that they really are working for you.
And I like to just talk about the cosmic chef. Imagining that there is a cosmic chef where you can put in your orders. It's just a playful image to use because sometimes we get a little too serious in all this work, and it can be fun. It doesn't have to be so serious. It can be fun. And when you uncover some of those negatives, you can consider those treasures. But if you would like to download dozens of affirmations that I've written for loving yourself, prosperity, health, relationships, career, you can go to my website, orderingfromthecosmickitchen.com, and also louisehay.com has many, many affirmations that you can go and download that will just help you. So you're not just having to feel like you have to create all of these on your own, that you can draw from the wisdom that's out there to actually help you, and then you can create your own more specifically. But affirmations for me just were really a transformative technique that I've been able to use over the years, and especially in the early years of working with this, I was able to create careers that I enjoyed or jobs that I enjoyed. And now the career that is absolutely my top love. Absolutely.
And use the mirror. I am such a big fan of mirror work. And honestly, when I first heard about mirror work, I was like, wait, what? But the power of mirror work is so transformational. And I actually used it this morning where I looked in the mirror and I said to myself, I love you because I have a long day of work and mothering and wifing and just doing lots of things ahead of me. And I was feeling a little overwhelmed. But when I took a minute before I came downstairs for my work, I stopped and I looked in the mirror and I said, I love you and you've got this. And my whole attitude completely changed. So even if it feels uncomfortable at first, even if you feel silly, that's okay. That's part of the work. And eventually you do get comfortable and it is transformational to look in the mirror and say, I love you. And then you can work on those affirmations and you can look in the mirror and say, I easily, and whatever it is you're working on. And I promise you, it is powerful and it will change things.
And really make the mirror your friend. It is your friend. I know we don't always think that. When we do an exercise with the mirror work at the training or in the 2-day workshop, we often will see, especially women, will pull up the mirror and look at themselves and they start fixing their eyebrows and their hair and looking at all that and we say, you know what? That's not who you are. It's not who you are. Look deeply into your own eyes and say, I love you. Or if that really seems too hard right now, say, I'm willing to love you. I'm willing to love you. So really make the mirror your friend, rather than this thing where you can criticize yourself. Just to love yourself as you're looking in the mirror. You can do forgiveness work in the mirror. You can tell yourself things that you wish your parents had told you. You can really be very loving to yourself when you're doing the mirror work. So that's one of the other foundational techniques that Louise has, the awareness, the powerful affirmations, the mirror work, and we're going to cover just one more today. And again, when we do part two, we're going to be covering some more.
Gratitude. There, uh, and it's become such a buzzword. And it really, any way that you find gratitude, it works. But honestly, again, it's just that stopping and being aware. When you're feeling negative, like, my car, I just really want a new car. Look at your car and say, oh my, I'm so grateful that you take me from point A to point B. I am so grateful for you. And I am grateful for the new car that's coming my way. When you can look around in your present circumstances and say, I am grateful for what is here. I'm grateful for the food. I am grateful for the love in my life. Your life will change. Gratitude, like it just wakes up your brain and it changes those negative thoughts. And again, it's that awareness when you have a negative thought. Louise, I can remember in her prosperity video, she talks about, if you don't love your home, don't say, I don't, don't go around telling your home how much you hate it. Thank your home for being there
Mhm.
and keeping you safe and out of the cold and the wind and the rain and the heat. And then just know that there is a new and better home coming your way.
Mhm.
Gratitude will make a huge difference in your life. And people will wonder. They genuinely will be like, what has changed in you? And
Mhm.
you can say, well, I am changing the synapses in my brain by practicing affirmations and by being grateful for all of the many blessings I have in my life.
hmm Absolutely. And one of the Hay House authors, Jim Quick, actually does talk about the specific scientific things about how the synapses are developed in your brain. And so as you quit doing the negative thoughts, those synapses start dissolving. And as you do the positive and the gratitude, you're creating those new pathways. So he has a great little video on that as well. So gratitude it's another just foundational technique to either think it or even more strongly, you can write your gratitudes every day. That's certainly wonderful if you're doing journal work. So those are the 4 techniques from Louise that we are talking about today. And as a thank you for being on this, webinar with us, we really appreciate it because I see a little typo. So sorry. We have 2 bonuses for you. The first one is not only the 12 ways to love yourself, which you may have already seen with Louise in different places. We certainly have put them up several places, but we also have an affirmation for you that goes along with each one of those 12 ways to love yourself. And that link will be in the follow-up email that you're going to be getting tomorrow. So that's our first bonus for you. And then the second one we would like to offer for those of you interested in actually taking the Heal Your Life workshop leader that we're offering in Orlando, Florida in June is a $600 discount off the full investment. So again, tomorrow in the email that you get, you're going to be getting a coupon where you'll get $400 off your deposit, and then there will also be $200 off your balance. Now, the Workshop Leader Training Program offers you materials to lead up to 15 different workshops in Louise's work. A 2-day workshop, 1-day workshop, 3-hour workshops, a 10-week study group, 5 weeks of that. So there are a lot of different ways that you can mix and match, the materials. And for many of you who are on this webinar, you might be either already trained as a life coach, or maybe a yoga instructor, or an alternative health practitioner of some kind, like Reiki, perhaps, NLP. There are a lot of ways that you might be having another background that's similar to Louise's work, but adding in the workshops from Louise's philosophy gives you the option of attracting people in groups to the work that you're doing. And you can also then attract more people to any other work that you're doing. And if you're someone who's trying to transition from corporate work, we've had quite a few people, haven't we, Christy,
Yes.
transition
Yeah, so many.
corporate work into the heart work. You can certainly use these materials to start a whole new career. We provide a tremendous amount of support after the training. Some places you go and do a training, they sort of wave you out the door at the end and say, have a nice life. And we don't do that.
Nope.
We provide tremendous follow-up afterwards with Zoom calls, webinars, Facebook or WhatsApp groups, a getting started series, and more personal, kind of support. So you can feel assured that you're getting an excellent program. Now, another question that comes up often is, why do you do it in person? Everybody's doing stuff online. Well, true, everybody's doing stuff online, but you know what? Louise's work is very deep, actually. On the surface, it seems simple, but there's a lot of depth. And there are exercises we simply cannot do online. And believe me, we have surveyed all of our Heal Your Life practitioners over the years, and every one of them has always said, yes, this really needs to stay in person. So that's why, and we know it's an investment, but we can assure you that it is worthwhile to make this investment to change your life personally and to develop all the skills and get the materials that you need professionally. And we're happy to answer any other questions. Christy, you were going to why don't you put in the question and answer about the one-to-one Zoom calls as well that we can do. And then I'm going to stop the share and just see if there's any other questions that we might answer. Do you have any questions? Okay, I live in Orlando. Do I have any discount for not being in the hotel? That is a great question. We often get that, Samara. We do actually require everyone to stay at the hotel so that you're out of your everyday activities and can really focus on the training program itself and also just the energy of the group. And this was something that I talked to Louise about, and it was very important for her because of the work she had done to keep everyone together. And I know that may sound a little unusual given that you live in Orlando, but the question has come up many times before. And again, we have surveyed our people, like someone from San Diego last September, lived, and she said, I am so glad I was on premises in the hotel for the entire time. She said, I got away from my normal routine. I wasn't distracted, and it really worked well for me. So that is the answer to that question. And if you'd like to talk more, I can do a Calendly, one-to-one Zoom. I think most of you are on our mailing list anyway, and so that's going to be on there. Always when you see an email from us. The audio from this, yes, will be available. Well, I have recorded this, and so we will be sending that out. Okay, any other questions?
Patricia, can you tell me again what it was you wanted me to put in chat? My chat disappeared
Just the
for me.
Calendly,
Oh, yes.
HYL
Gotcha.
training. Yeah. So if anybody does want to do a one-to-one, we're happy to do that as well. I've got a one-to-one talk this afternoon, actually. So I can answer all your personal questions. You may have some after you get off of this webinar.
Okay, give me a second.
But again, it will be, in the general email that we send out. But tomorrow you will all be getting a specific email just as a thank you for showing up to the webinar. And you will also be able to get that link for the 12 ways to love yourself with the affirmations. Louise didn't provide any affirmations with her 12 ways to love yourself. She did a little more of description of each one of them, but we decided to put together the list with affirmations for you. And then you'll also get the coupon code for Orlando, and that will be good if you register by March 31st. And in the meantime, we're happy to answer any questions.
And we'll be sending that Calendly link out in the email as well.
Yeah,
Um, Patricia's great at talking to you guys for 30 minutes. She loves to talk about the training. She is so inspirational and wonderful. So if you are thinking about this, I highly suggest making that appointment with her using the Calendly link. It's really worth the time and energy. And a lot of times I get the question, what can I really do with this work when I take it out? Once I leave the training, what can I really do with it? And again, it's what Patricia said, where she said that we support you. We offer so many different ways, and we talk to you about so many different ways, from taking it into people's living rooms in something we call the living room tours, so that you are not having to go out and do some kind of big social media marketing if that's not who you are. We talk about the big social media marketing if that's something you want to do. We talk about how to bring it into your community and going out to local business groups. We really support you in finding ways to get your workshop started, to help you figure out how to find clients, how to, promote this with the clients you might already have, how to integrate this with stuff you're already doing, and how to transition from a career that you have retired from or looking to move on from. And also for people who are just looking to feed their soul, even if they're still in their regular job. So there's so many different ways that you can take this training and use it to change people's lives around you in the way that you're learning to change your life.
absolutely. And Bonnie, thank you for the compliment. We really enjoyed sharing all this information on the webinar. And I have to tell you, the Heal Your Life work has fulfilled my life purpose. And I made a commitment to a life purpose many, many years ago, not even knowing how it was going to unfold. I had no idea. But this has really been the fulfillment for me of my life purpose. And I love, love, love sharing it with people and helping them change their lives because my life has changed so much. And as Christy said, hers as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
lots of love to everybody. We love you. We'd love to share more with you and just answer any questions that you might have individually as well. Okay.
Thank
Goodbye.
you all so much for being here. Goodbye.
Take
Mwah.
care.